Well, I guess finally Sargon's little child is safe, right? Because his prime minister, Keir Starmer, has passed a decree banning pornography on the internet, but not just any pornography. No. It's the one involving stepmothers. The stepmothers porn to prison pipeline is actually a thing in the United Kingdom. Apparently, they were saying that over 80,000 cases of step parents molest their children. So basically, the pornography is normalizing. Like all these people, they watch anime, and all of a sudden they're like, this anime has a point. Maybe I should actually go and molest little Billy. They're not actually talking about which people are doing this, by the way. They're not talking if it's like the old English or the new English, because it seems to be a fairly recent phenomenon, right? So, weirdly enough, like up until now, they didn't have so many cases, but all of a sudden they do. And they're looking at what could have been the problem, and it's, of course, anime and Pornhub. Pornhub, of course, because that's where the boomer thinks that all the pornography on the internet exists. And then they get shocked when they realize that they can't go on Twitter without doxing themselves. They can't go on YouTube or use a Google search engine without showing ID. And then they realize that their information is now on the dark web and they have no idea how it got there. Listen, that is a reason that I wanted to pick this topic, because it popped up on my algorithm. Now, the interesting thing is that if you know anything about British politics, it's Labour, right? Labour, the party, which actually doesn't want to ban cousin marriage. So please, I would like any moral person, I would like, like the decent members of society that support legislations like this, to explain to me how exactly is it that if you write a book about a stepmother gone wild in the UK, that one is a crime, but if you actually fuck your cousin, that one is perfectly fine. How does that make sense, huh? Like, do we do logic anymore in society? Because I understand morality is now at the forefront, but like, does logic still exist? Do we still care about real cases? Apparently not, right? Like, fiction is what needs to be policed. And so, the question is, who benefits from this? Like, why exactly is this type of legislation getting passed? What does the government get from this, right? Like, what exactly does Keir Starmer benefit? Because I don't think for a second that Keir Starmer wants to protect the British from becoming like the French. And so when you look at it, you notice that there are actually several ways that the government benefits. First and foremost, there is a cottage industry of peers, academics, and NGOs whose entire relevance depends on the pipeline of bans. This is why you get to see every new year, like, they add another taboo, another thing that they don't like. Because you have individuals like Baroness Burton, for instance, who was commissioned to do the review. The review recommends bans. The bans get legislated. The next review gets commissioned. Everyone involved, I'm sure, is sincere and professionally invested in the expansion continuing, and they also make a lot of cash. Okay? Like, these individuals make a lot of taxpayer money that are taken from British people in order to suggest more bans. And so there is a financial incentive for them to find more things to complain about. On top of that, once you decide to ban something, now you need committees. Now you need people that are actually looking into the various things that happen in society. Those people also get paid, also sponsored by the government. Now, as I mentioned before, the number of actual sexual abuses that are happening in the United Kingdom seems to be skyrocketing. So I want you to put yourself into the position of the government. Which one is a more comfortable take? It is because the internet is poisoning the mind of the generation, or is it because your policies, your billions of dollars that you spent on feminism, on activism, on NGO were for nothing? And in fact, it could have made it worse. There is also another phenomenon, which I'm sure that philosophers have a name for it, but when Romania was under communism, we noticed something very interesting. The government was very involved in policing thought. Like we have the term thought policing, which apparently doesn't exist in 2026 anymore. But yes, like thought policing was wrong, specifically because, first of all, you can't really know what the person generally thinks, but secondly, because it encourages real crime. You need to understand how the police actually functions. They don't function like we see in the TV show Cops, or, you have like a detective movie that you watch growing up. The reality is that the police is an institution and it functions based on metrics. If you're basically saying that a fictional crime and a real crime is still a crime, and police officers only care about case open, case closed, it's a lot easier for them to police fictional crime than it is to police real crime. Think about it this way. Let's say you have a person that actually writes a book about stepmothers gone wild. He's a criminal. How much does it cost to apprehend him? Virtually nothing. You basically send a police car in an afternoon, you round him up, you seize his electronics, bada bim, bada boom, case closed. All of a sudden, the police has solved a case of sexual abuse. Now, let's assume that you have a grooming gang. How difficult is it to solve it? Well, it's very difficult, because now you need to spend months of investigation. You need to risk police officers' lives that probably go undercover and they try to rescue actual victims. You risk spending a lot of money, because the grooming gang also has cash and they can hire lawyers and they will definitely fight you in court. The mainstream media is against you because you're doing the racismus and, you're targeting people based on their ethnicity. And so you notice that the incentive is to actually go after fictional crime. It's not that police officers are evil. It's like they're people like you and I, like they view police work as a job. They go to the work in order to make money so that they can come home and feed their kids. And so when the incentive is that you need to get more case files to get the promotion, right? And you're looking at your colleagues that are getting a high number of case files, well, you need to step up. And again, you're not going to pick the difficult ones, right? This happened in communism in my country. And again, it's not that like the people are evil, it's that institutions do not function like individuals. Institutions aren't moral, right? But that aside, what else is the government gaining by, again, criminalizing various taboos in fiction? Another thing that they are gaining is the expanding of Afcom, right? You need to understand how Afcom works. Now, in the civilized world, in the world that has logic and common sense, there are laws. Like, for example, drugs are illegal. Yes? Okay, fine. Drugs are illegal. But the police is not going to break into my house for no reason whatsoever just because they feel that way in order to see if I have drugs, right? Like, the police doesn't do that. Why? Because I'm innocent until proven guilty. Like, I have to give them a probable cause for them to even start investigating me, right? Okay. That's not what the UK government is doing with Afcom. If you actually look at the legislation and you look at how Afcom functions, they want to look at every single aspect of the internet. There should be absolutely nothing under a password or nothing in a way that the government can't reach. They want to be able to look at Apple's cloud. They want to be able to look at your computer. They want to know who you are, where you are, because they assume everyone is guilty. Everyone is probably grooming or posting anime or posting shit like this or doing kasami, right? Every single person is guilty, so the government needs to supervise every single person to make sure that what they're posting is okay. That's pretty much how Afcom functions, right? Because despite the way that the law is written, that's what it actually does in practice. And so you end up in a situation where then the government can just add hate speech on top of that, or they can add other things that they find politically inconvenient. Seeing, like, for example, I don't know, talking against the environmentalism, talking against Keir Starmer himself, right? And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, how did this all come from? Because, like, I just was against pornography. I didn't, like, what is happening? Pornography is the absolute gold standard of modern governments now. It is the best way that you can push for measures that 5 years ago, no person on planet Earth would have wanted. But I think something happened after COVID that a lot of people have said, you know what, maybe a little bit of fascism isn't bad. Maybe the government did save my grandma. Maybe I actually want Keir Starmer as my uncle. And here we go. And I'm seeing this on Twitter, like more and more people are asking questions like, how can we allow? Why should we allow? This is the question on right-wingers on Twitter. Why should we allow? Nobody's asking the question, why should we allow the government? Like, how much more are we to allow the government? right? Because like when they ask like why should we allow, they don't view themselves as banning something. No, like they're viewing supporting politicians, NGO, and activists that empower the government further. And these people seem to have learned absolutely nothing from the Jack Dorsey era. Now, this also legitimizes payment processors to deplatform. And again, the government doesn't give a shit about pornography. Like, let's be clear. I'm pretty sure that a lot of politicians also have stocks in OnlyFans and other porn endeavors, right? Like sex clubs and other things. Because why wouldn't they? They're profitable, right? Money is money. The problem is that once you legitimize going after porn, it's like, well, why wouldn't we go after hate speech? Why wouldn't we go after terrorism? And of course, these are things that the government gets to define. And this is the problem, right? And this explains, again, why the UK doesn't give a shit about real life incest between cousins, which, again, this particular government voted against a law that was to ban it, but they care about fiction, right? Like, they care about anything that has stepmothers, whether it's a video with actors that aren't even related, whether it's an anime, whether it's whatever the case may be, you know. The reason they're doing it is to normalize the concept of the government having the right to scour fiction and to ban things and to put people aware that being watched is normal and healthy. Your parents didn't think that. Your grandparents didn't think that either, unless they were from Eastern Europe. In which case, once they got out of communism, they were glad they finally got out of it and they never wanted to return to that again. And of course, there's also the other thing, right? Like, by going after these taboos, like, who is going to defend them? Like, you need to have an absolute retard like me that is willing to risk his neck because he doesn't give a shit about what other people think and is calling a spade and is basically saying, no, like, this is retarded. Like, what they are doing is not about banning pornography, and I genuinely don't give a shit if my neighbor watches Stepmom's Gone Wild. Not my cup of tea. I mean, maybe it is. Depends if the stepmom has big tits or not. Like, here's the other thing that is not being discussed, right? Like, when it's fiction, it's not your real mother there. Like, obviously, I don't even have a sister. I don't even know what the fuck incest is like. But if you have, like, a completely fictional thing with other actors that aren't even related to you, isn't that, like, is that still incest? Like, huh? Like, the whole concept, from my understanding, is, like, something that moves the plot along, right? Because, like, the plot is they're having sex, but they're not supposed to. And so it's like, okay, they're grown adults. What would prevent them from having sex? Like, what would be the danger, right? Like, you can't have one that's underage and one overage, because, like, again, that's illegal. You can't have rape. That's illegal. So it's like, okay, well, they're brothers and sisters. Okay, they're brothers and sisters, or they're stepmoms, or whatever, right? Like, it's the plot to create the idea that the sexual thing shouldn't happen, but they do it anyway because they're mischievous, they're naughty, right? Like, that's what I think is the kink. I don't have it, so I'm trying to explain it, but maybe I should ask a couple of... Do I have any people that are into this? Because it's very popular. Like, let's stop pretending, right? Like, it used to be everywhere on Pornhub back in the day before it got regulated. Like, you'd click on the website and boom, like, stepmoms galore. And so, like, I assumed that the reason that was the case is because it was actually very popular, right? And so, like, what? Like, every single one of those people are shagging their mom? Because I don't think I live in a world like that. I refuse to believe it. But for some reason, that seems to be what the internet tells me, right? And what the British government is concerned about. Anyway, let me know what you think. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.